There is a moment in traction almost every woman understands, yet very few ever talk about. A small moment that says something big. It happens when chemistry is strong, when the tension feels electric, when his confidence is attractive, when the closeness feels natural, and for a second, everything seems perfectly in place, until one subtle detail quietly changes the entire feeling. Suddenly, what should feel exciting becomes complicated. You want to protect his feelings, but you also cannot ignore your own experience. You want honesty, but not awkwardness. You want closeness, but not discomfort. And in that quiet space between what you feel and what you should say, that is where feminine power truly begins. Because the most captivating women understand something others miss. How you handle delicate moments determines whether attraction deepens or disappears. Anyone can criticize. Anyone can react emotionally. Anyone can embarrass someone in a vulnerable moment. But a woman with confidence, softness, and emotional intelligence knows how to guide a situation without creating shame. She knows that men, no matter how strong they appear, carry quiet insecurities about being desired, accepted, and respected. The wrong words can bruise his confidence. The right words, spoken with warmth, can inspire change without resistance. That is influence. That is elegance. That is power. And here's what makes this even more important. Real intimacy is never built on pretending. It is built on honesty wrapped in care, truth spoken with grace, and standards held without cruelty. When a woman learns how to communicate uncomfortable things in a way that protects dignity while honoring herself, she becomes unforgettable. She becomes magnetic. She becomes the kind of woman whose presence feels rare, soft but strong, gentle but clear, kind but impossible to ignore. Today, we are talking about that exact kind of feminine power. How to handle uncomfortable moments with class, how to keep attraction alive, and how to say what needs to be said in a way that makes connection stronger instead of weaker. Stay with me, because what comes next could completely change how you see intimacy, confidence, and influence. The first thing every woman should understand is this. Your first reaction becomes the emotional memory he carries. In delicate moments, people rarely remember every word that was said, but they always remember how they were made to feel. That is why reacting too quickly, showing visible discomfort, pulling away suddenly, making a face, or letting awkward silence fill the room can create embarrassment that lingers far longer than the moment itself. A man may appear confident on the outside, but deep down, most men carry a quiet desire to feel wanted, respected, and fully accepted by the woman they are close to. The moment he senses disgust, rejection, or judgment, his confidence can instantly shift into self-consciousness, and once shame enters intimacy, emotional distance often follows. This is why feminine intelligence is not about reacting. It is about redirecting. Redirecting means gently moving the moment toward comfort without making him feel attacked. It is subtle, graceful, and incredibly powerful. A woman who understands this knows how to protect both attraction and dignity at the same time. Instead of creating a moment of embarrassment, she creates a moment of connection. She might naturally shift the energy by suggesting a refreshing pause, turning attention toward comfort, freshness, or shared closeness in a way that feels warm rather than corrective. Her tone stays soft, her body language stays relaxed, her presence stays inviting, nothing feels forced, and nothing feels like criticism. That is what makes the difference. Men respond very differently to guidance when their pride is protected. When a man feels respected, he becomes more open, more aware, and more willing to improve on his own. But when he feels humiliated, even gently, his instinct is often to shut down emotionally or become defensive. The deeper truth is this: how a woman handles uncomfortable moments reveals her emotional maturity. Anyone can point out a flaw, anyone can react harshly, but it takes confidence, calmness, and wisdom to handle a sensitive issue with grace. And that grace is deeply attractive. It creates emotional safety, and emotional safety creates stronger connection. When a woman learns the art of redirecting instead of rejecting, she holds her standards without damaging intimacy. She protects her own comfort while protecting his dignity. That balance is rare, and rare energy is magnetic. Real feminine power is not loud, cold, or humiliating. It is warm, composed, and quietly influential. It knows how to lead a moment without making the other person feel small. That is what keeps attraction alive, not perfection, but the ability to handle imperfect moments beautifully. And often the woman who masters that quiet emotional strength becomes unforgettable because she leaves a man feeling respected, understood, and deeply drawn toward becoming better in her presence. The second thing every woman should understand is this: people naturally move toward what makes them feel admired. Criticism may create temporary change, but appreciation creates lasting desire to improve. That is why making freshness feel attractive is far more powerful than making odor feel like a problem. Many women make the mistake of focusing on what is wrong, thinking honesty must sound blunt to be effective. But emotional intelligence understands a deeper truth. People repeat what gets rewarded. Men especially respond strongly to admiration because beneath strength, confidence, and masculine energy is often a quiet need to feel wanted by the woman they care about. When a man feels desired, noticed, and appreciated, he pays attention to the details that earn that response. This is where feminine influence becomes incredibly powerful. Instead of framing hygiene around correction, frame it around attraction. Make freshness feel connected to intimacy, closeness, and desire. Notice when he smells clean. Compliment how good he feels when he is refreshed. Mention how attractive it is when a man takes care of himself, how confidence becomes even more magnetic when it is paired with cleanliness and effort. These small words may sound simple, but their emotional impact runs deep. They quietly create association in his mind. Freshness equals feeling attractive, wanted, and close to you. And once that connection is built, effort becomes natural rather than forced. He will begin paying more attention, not because he feels criticized, but because he enjoys how your admiration feels. That is the difference between pressure and inspiration. One creates resistance, the other creates willing change. There is also something deeply feminine about leading through warmth rather than harshness. Soft influence is often stronger than direct confrontation because it enters the heart without touching pride in a painful way. A woman who knows how to praise what she values creates a powerful emotional environment around her. She becomes associated with encouragement, comfort, and inspiration, and that energy naturally pulls people upward. This does not mean lowering standards or pretending something does not matter. It means understanding that how you communicate shapes what happens next. If you make someone feel ashamed, they focus on their embarrassment. If you make someone feel inspired, they focus on becoming better. That is a completely different emotional outcome. Attraction grows where appreciation lives. Intimacy deepens where people feel safe to improve without feeling small. And perhaps, most importantly, when a woman speaks from desire rather than criticism, she keeps her softness while still shaping the relationship in a healthy direction. That balance is rare. It is powerful because it does not demand, it invites. It does not wound, it awakens awareness. It does not embarrass, it elevates. And often that quiet feminine ability to make a man want to become better, simply because he loves how he feels in her presence, becomes one of the strongest forms of influence she will ever hold. The third thing every woman should understand is this: hard truths are not what break connection. Harsh delivery is. There are moments in every close relationship when honesty becomes necessary, when softness alone is not enough, and when something uncomfortable needs to be spoken with care. This is where emotional wisdom matters most, because the way a woman speaks in a delicate moment can either protect intimacy or quietly damage it. Men, even the strongest ones, often carry silent pride around being desirable, capable, and accepted by the woman they are close to. They may not openly admit it, but how they are seen in intimate moments touches something deeply personal inside them. That is why sensitive conversations should never be handled carelessly. Timing matters, privacy matters, tone matters, and above all, dignity matters. A woman with emotional intelligence understands that correction given with respect lands very differently than correction delivered with frustration, mockery, or visible disgust. The goal is never to make him feel small. The goal is to make him aware while keeping the emotional connection safe. When honesty comes wrapped in warmth, people listen without feeling attacked. When truth is spoken gently, defensiveness becomes less likely. This is the quiet strength of feminine communication. It can be clear without being cold, honest without being cruel, and firm without becoming sharp. That kind of energy creates trust. It tells him, I respect you enough to be real with you, and I care enough to protect your feelings while doing it. That message is powerful because respect is deeply meaningful to men. They may forget exact words, but they remember whether they felt honored or humiliated in vulnerable moments. There is also something important women should remember. Private conversations create emotional safety. Sensitive things should never become jokes in front of others. Casual criticism or ammunition during arguments. Once shame becomes attached to a personal issue, it can create lasting insecurity. But when a delicate truth is spoken quietly, respectfully, and at the right moment, it feels like care rather than rejection. That changes everything. A man who feels respected is more open to growth. A man who feels embarrassed often retreats inward. The difference is not in the truth itself. It is in the delivery. And perhaps this is where feminine grace becomes most attractive, not in perfect words, but in wise words, not in silence, but in gentle honesty, not in avoiding uncomfortable conversations, but in handling them with class. A woman who can speak truth with warmth becomes unforgettable because her honesty heals instead of wounds. She creates space where improvement feels possible without feeling humiliating. She keeps her standards while keeping her heart soft. That balance is rare, deeply mature, and incredibly magnetic. In the end, real intimacy is not built by avoiding uncomfortable truths. It is built by learning how to speak them in a way that strengthens trust, deepens respect, and keeps love feeling safe, warm, and beautifully human. The fourth thing every woman should understand is this. Before judging what you notice, understand what may be causing it. So often, people react to a moment without seeing the deeper picture behind it. What feels unpleasant on the surface may not come from carelessness at all. It may come from exhaustion, long hours of work, heat, sweating through stressful days, poor sleep, dehydration, tight clothing, diet choices, or simply being unaware. Sometimes people become used to their own body scent and genuinely do not notice what others notice. That does not make them careless. It makes them human. And this is where emotional maturity changes everything. A woman with wisdom does not instantly move into criticism, disgust, or quiet resentment. She becomes curious before she becomes judgmental. She understands that compassion often reveals truths that frustration never will. Think about it. How often do people carry invisible burdens without speaking about them? Stress alone changes how the body responds. Anxiety changes habits. Exhaustion changes self-care. Busy routines make people overlook small things. Even confidence can make someone assume everything is fine when it is not. So instead of asking, what is wrong with him? Ask, what might he be carrying that I do not see? That single shift creates softness in your energy, and softness changes how you communicate. When your heart becomes understanding, your words naturally become kinder, your body language becomes warmer, your tone becomes gentler, and people feel the difference immediately. They feel whether they are being judged or understood. That emotional feeling matters more than many realize. Compassion creates openness. Judgment creates distance. Understanding builds connection. Harsh assumptions build walls. And here is the deeper truth. When a woman chooses compassion first, she does not become weak. She becomes emotionally powerful. She shows maturity, patience, and grace in moments where others would react impulsively. That energy is rare. It makes relationships stronger because it creates safety. The feeling that even uncomfortable moments can be handled with care rather than criticism. This also protects your own heart from unnecessary bitterness. The moment you stop assuming the worst, you create room for empathy, and empathy changes everything about intimacy. Real closeness is not built only in perfect moments. It is built in how two people handle imperfect ones. It is built when understanding replaces shame, when kindness replaces embarrassment, and when emotional intelligence leads where ego once wanted control. That is true feminine depth, the ability to see beyond the surface, to respond with wisdom instead of impulse, and to understand that sometimes what a person needs most is not criticism, but gentle awareness wrapped in compassion. And often, when a man feels deeply understood rather than quietly judged, something beautiful happens. He naturally wants to rise, improve, and become better, not from pressure, but from the quiet desire to honor the woman whose presence made him feel seen with both honesty and heart. The fifth thing every woman should understand is this: kindness should never come at the cost of self-respect. Compassion matters, grace matters, understanding matters, but so do your standards. There is a powerful difference between being loving and silently accepting what consistently makes you uncomfortable. Many women confuse softness with settling, thinking that protecting someone's feelings means ignoring their own experience. It does not. Real feminine strength is warm, but it is also clear. It is gentle, but it is grounded. It understands that attraction is not sustained by chemistry alone. It is sustained by care, effort, awareness, and mutual respect. The small details in how someone carries themselves, how they care for their body, and how mindful they are of shared intimacy all play a quiet but important role in keeping connection alive. When those things are ignored repeatedly, attraction can slowly fade, not because love disappeared, but because effort did, and effort matters. A woman should never feel guilty for valuing freshness, cleanliness, and thoughtful self-care in a relationship. These are not shallow desires. They are part of feeling comfortable, respected, and emotionally safe in closeness. Standards are not demands for perfection. They are healthy expectations for mutual care, and healthy expectations protect love from turning into silent resentment. What matters is how those standards are carried. They should not come from arrogance, cruelty, or criticism. They should come from quiet confidence, the kind that says, I care deeply, but I also honor what makes connection feel healthy for me. That energy is powerful because it is honest without being harsh. It invites growth without humiliation. It communicates value without drama. And the right man will not be threatened by that clarity. He will respect it. In fact, men often rise to the standards of a woman they genuinely admire, especially when those standards are expressed with warmth rather than control. A woman who carries herself with softness and self-respect naturally inspires better effort because her energy quietly says she knows her worth. She does not beg for basic care, nor does she shame someone into giving it. She simply communicates what matters and allows actions to reveal character. That is emotional maturity. That is feminine confidence. And perhaps most importantly, it protects your heart from shrinking yourself just to avoid uncomfortable conversations. Love should never require silence about what affects your comfort, attraction, or peace of mind. Real intimacy grows where honesty and respect walk together. It grows where both people care enough to improve for one another, not from fear, but from love. In the end, protecting attraction is not about demanding perfection. It is about honoring the little things that keep closeness beautiful. And a woman who can remain compassionate while still holding clear, loving standards becomes unforgettable because she brings both tenderness and truth, softness and strength, grace and self-respect, all in a way that makes genuine connection feel deeper, healthier, and profoundly lasting. At the end of the day, what keeps attraction alive is not perfection. It is care. It is the quiet effort two people make to protect the connection, to stay aware of each other's experience, and to handle uncomfortable moments with maturity instead of ego. Ladies, never underestimate the power of how you communicate. Your softness can calm shame. Your grace can turn awkwardness into closeness. Your honesty, when spoken with warmth, can inspire change far more deeply than criticism ever could. But remember this too, your kindness should always walk hand in hand with self-respect. You deserve a connection that feels good emotionally, mentally, and physically, and you should never feel guilty for valuing the little things that make intimacy feel beautiful, fresh, and deeply comfortable. Real feminine power is not loud. It is not harsh. It does not humiliate, chase, or force. It gently leads. It influences with warmth. It speaks truth with class. And it holds standards with quiet confidence. That is the kind of energy people never forget That is the kind of woman whose presence changes how someone chooses to show up. So if today's message connected with you, hold on to this truth. Lead with compassion, speak with grace, protect your standards, and never lose the softness that makes your strength so powerful. Because when a woman learns how to balance tenderness with confidence, she becomes magnetic in a way that goes far beyond beauty. And if you believe feminine wisdom, emotional depth, and self-respect are what truly create lasting attraction, then stay connected. Because the next conversation may reveal a truth that changes how you see love, intimacy, and your own quiet power forever.